what any of you guys say, to me, this is vastly more terrifying than this. This video doesn't have a whole lot of context, but in it we can see a creepy image of the 1954 original Godzilla, then an image of the modern day Godzilla, and two more images showcasing the same comparison. For those that didn't know, Godzilla has been around for quite some time. 1954 was the first ever release of one of the movies. Of course though, there were no special effects, so instead of having CGI, they actually had an actor inside of this specially made suit, and obviously he'd be walking around on a miniature set. The suit weighed around 220 pounds according to my research, and because this was man-made, it turned out a lot creepier in my opinion. There's just something really unsettling about the face here. It looks like something that's been burning and charring on a barbecue for far too long. It's freaky. At first, it might look like the alligator here is winning, but honestly, it probably would lose if it were a battle to the death. This is a video that a bunch of you guys tagged me in. It recently went viral. In it, we can see an American crocodile fighting an American alligator. And of course, a sight like this is only going to be something you see in Florida. Many people might not know this, but in Florida, we do actually have our own crocodiles, the American crocodile, and males can grow up to around 20 feet in length, so they are actually quite large. And of course, in Florida, we also have alligators, so there is quite a bit of crossover between their territories and boundaries, meaning occasionally they will fight. And in terms of who would win a fight to the death, most of the time, it's going to go to the crocodile. They have a much stronger bite force, and on average, they are about 6 feet longer than the American alligator. Fortunately, it didn't go this far though. The alligator did end up leaving.
They found her trapped in the freezer.
What you guys just witnessed are some of the last moments recorded on CCTV camera of this unfortunate individual. The clip that you guys just watched was taken from 2017 in a hotel, and in it we can see a young woman by the name of Kanika Jenkins. In the video, based on our coordination, it's pretty clear she's probably had some substances this night, and this would pave the way for a horrible accident to occur. Back in 2017, Kanika attended a party at the Crown Plaza Hotel located in Chicago, Illinois. At this party, in room 926, she consumed alcohol as well as another substance, and was then captured on security camera walking around the halls, and the next day was discovered inside of a freezer, no longer alive. There were multiple factors that went into Kanika's demise, but her parents did end up filing a lawsuit, and in 2023 it was settled for reportedly $6 million. This is a case that's recently been blowing up again, and unfortunately the title here is not clickbait. So here this TikTok slideshow starts off with an image of a smiling 10-year-old boy and an image of his foster mother's mugshot after taking his life. So recently here, Jennifer Lee Wilson, a 48-year-old from Indiana, was sentenced to 6 years behind bars. As previously mentioned, Jennifer was the foster mother to this young 10-year-old boy, and while she was parenting him, she was upset with him and wanted to discipline him. So she placed her entire 4'11", 340-pound frame onto the boy's midsection. After approximately 5 minutes, the boy stopped moving, but Jennifer thought he was faking it, so she didn't get up. Eventually, she realized he wasn't faking it, so she got up, started performing CPR, and called the police, but by that point it was too late. Then she was tried, and now, of course, recently sentenced. If your For You page is anything like mine, you've probably seen this video. It has 3.2 million likes. The video that you guys just watched appears to be the ending of a game where this dinosaur is running, and in this supposed ending, the dinosaur that's running comes across its partner, who's in love with somebody else, and of course, this dinosaur is heartbroken. For those that don't know, this game will pop up when your Google Chrome extension does not have internet. In it, you basically just keep running, and there doesn't really appear to be an end. There is some conflicting information out there, but in older versions of the game, I think the developer said that it would take 17 million years to get to the very end. And from my research, in the current version, once you get to 99,999, your score basically resets. But in none of these scenarios is the dinosaur ever going to come across its partner who's romantically involved with somebody else. It just doesn't really make sense for this to be the ending.
This could cause a human crush.
Boy, is this alcohol?
From a surface perspective, I understand that this might not look like a very big deal, but as it turns out, this could be very deadly. This is a video that was sent to me through Instagram DM. In it, we can see these individuals standing at the top of an escalator and nobody in front is moving. Because of this, the people on the bottom are starting to get smashed up at the top, and these are the beginnings of a human stampede. Human stampedes have happened on escalators before. They're oftentimes also referred to as human crushes, and basically it's when people get packed so tightly together that other people are unable to breathe and they pass away. But a human stampede on the escalator is not the only risk here. Because this is happening at the top of the escalator, other people that are coming up might accidentally lose footing and fall backwards, therefore injuring themselves on the way back down.
Proof that ants are smarter than humans.
Honestly, I don't know why people keep sleeping on ants, but they are smarter than humans in this sense. This is a fascinating video that I scrolled across on Reddit. In it, we can see these two barriers right here with two openings and this very strange shape. The ants in this video are attempting to move this shape from the left to the right, and at first they fail, but eventually they do succeed. And this might come as a complete shock, but ants actually outperformed humans when it came to this experiment. That's really not too surprising though, because while one individual ant might have a very small brain and not be intelligent, so to speak, when it comes to the entire colony, they all think together. As you guys know, ants will oftentimes create bridges so they can work together to get from point A to point B, and even when their colony becomes flooded, they will create these rafts where all of the ants will survive, even the ones at the bottom.
Why you never jump in to save someone?
The least amount of damage that I've seen from the earthquake. So recently on social media, a bunch of videos have been getting posted about the recent earthquake that happened in Myanmar, and a lot of these buildings have extensive damage. This damage is very minor compared to the other ones. Here we can see that a rooftop pool has just broken. But in Myanmar, where the 7.7 earthquake actually happened, there have been very large structures that have fallen, crushing people. And even in Bangkok, Thailand, with recent construction projects, they have crumbled and over 100 people have lost their lives and many more are missing. So far, the exact death toll and extent of damages has yet to be reported. However, there are a ton of people in the hospital. A lot of people are attempting to send aid here, so it's very needed and a very bad situation. Obviously, there are a lot of people out there who believe in UFOs and specifically aliens, and this is one of the stories a lot of people oftentimes think is true. So there's only two images in this slideshow. The first one is of an old lady by the name of Jessie Rostenberg, and as you guys can see, she's holding a pretty interesting looking image. And the second photo here is that same image showing two individuals wearing completely blue suits with blonde hair. So in October of 1954, Jessie was outside of her home in the UK, and she looked up and noticed a silver flying saucer. And inside of the flying saucer, she claimed to see these two individuals with blonde hair, and they looked relatively friendly. Now by itself, this story does kind of sound like a dime a dozen. However, Jessie does have a very long interview, and a lot of people seem to think she's very credible because there's so much detail to her story, and it's never changed once.
This fox is already dead. It just doesn't know it yet.
Regardless of whatever this fox is going through, this video is very tragic. This is a video that's recently gone viral on TikTok. In it, we can see a fox that's acting very erratically. Its mouth is open, its head is shaking, it looks extremely uncoordinated, and there are two things that I believe this likely is. Obviously, number one, this could be rabies, but we're actually not going to talk about that virus in this video. There is another virus that also has an extremely high mortality rate that can impact foxes, and it is relatively common. It's referred to as canine distemper virus. This virus, as its name suggests, impacts foxes as well as other canines, including your dog if you don't get them vaccinated. And it's extremely contagious, spreading through bodily fluids of other animals, unlike rabies, which either requires a bite or the animal to consume the infected animal that died. Mortality rate here, if left untreated, is roughly 50%, so 1 in 2 animals will die.
Would you eat this for $1 million?
I don't care what you guys say. Even though this looks unappetizing, I would try it for $1 million. In fact, I'd probably try it for free. This is a TikTok video that I got tagged in. In it, we can see this person has a watermelon. However, it does look a little off. The watermelon appears to have a very mushy consistency, and this person cuts into it like a hot knife into butter. Well, it might come as a surprise to you guys, but the watermelon that you guys were looking at is something people do pretty often actually. They're just pickling a whole watermelon. Usually people will make watermelon pickles out of the rind of the watermelon, so they're pretty much using all parts of it. But this person, for example, Cooking by Lena, will oftentimes just place large whole watermelons inside of these large gallon drums and fill it up with brine and wait. And again, even though it might not look the most appetizing immediately after being pulled out, this is something that a lot of people really like because it's both sweet and sour. It's hard to tell exactly what's going on in this video, but one thing is for sure, people are definitely freaking out. This is a video that was recently posted to TikTok. It has been going viral on all social media platforms, and in it, we can see these people standing on top of a submarine. But partway through the video, everyone frantically starts trying to run off, and we can hear people screaming in the background, and this is for very good reason. So the clip that you guys just watched was recorded on Thursday in Egypt's Red Sea, and the submarine here was meant to be an underwater excursion that allowed people to hang out next to a personalized window and check out the reef that they were over. However, while people were inside of this submarine named Sinbad, it ended up sinking, taking the lives of 6 people and injuring several others. As of now, the cause for Sinbad sinking is unclear. We still don't know, but I'm sure that will come out over the next few days.
Are you?
Okay, first things first, and you guys probably don't need me to tell you this, it's not a wise idea to just go in gung-ho through this hole. This TikTok video that I got tagged in went super viral. In it, we can see these 2 women have found a hatch on the ground. They open it up, it's pitch black inside, and it sounds pretty large because there's an audible echo. Now, first off, the reason why you don't want to just enter a random cave or hole in the ground is because of dead air or foul air. This is basically air that has a high concentration of CO2 or other gases that are not oxygen, meaning if you try to breathe in here, you're not going to be able to breathe and you'll die. Now, as for what this is, there was one comment that I actually agree with here. We can see a little bit of water on the ground and a ladder going down. So I think more than likely this is something known as a water cistern. These are just large buried containers that hold liquids. Most of the time it's going to be rainwater. I agree. If I were to see this in person, I think it would be a little bit odd, but really, if you think about it, it's not that big of a deal. This TikTok that I got tagged in had a bunch of people freaked out. We can see the caption, "It's just a pig staring at you." And then when the person recording zooms in, we can see this pig has a very strange look on its face. And a lot of people were thinking this pig wanted to eat the cameraman. While it's true that pigs will eat just about anything, including humans, though, when a pig is staring at you, that is very unlikely to be what the pig is thinking about. Pigs are actually very social animals, and they're very attentive. That means when a new person is approaching a pig pen, they are going to keep an eye on you and try to size you up and see if you're a threat or not. And even if you're not a new person, if you've done something bad to this pig in the past or something good to this pig, they can recognize you and remember that instance, so they're going to act accordingly. Pigs are a lot more intelligent than people think. They're about the same level as a human 3-year-old. This is a case that a lot of people tend to forget about, but this iconic clip of this guy running through the airport usually helps people remember it. So this clip has the caption, "POV, you're still wondering what Lars Mittank was running from." And we can clearly see him walking into the airport normally and then running out at full speed. This is a case that happened back in 2014. Lars Mittank was visiting Bulgaria from Germany. During his trip, he ended up getting into a fight with rival soccer fans, which ended up injuring him and forcing him to take strong medication. Eventually, doctors released him to go home, so he visited Varna Airport getting ready for that flight. And this is when he allegedly said, "I don't want to die here, I have to get out of here," then sprinted out of the airport, climbed over a 2-meter fence, jumped into a field of flowers, and ran off into the distance. And the craziest part is, nobody knows why Lars did this, and nobody's ever seen him since. He's been missing since 2014. While this video by itself is definitely not the most disturbing one that I've ever watched, it's still probably not something you'd want to watch if you don't have a strong stomach. This is another no context video that was posted to TikTok. In it, we can see this guy standing holding a sledgehammer and smashing the floor, clearly trying to destroy the floor and demolish it. And I'm sure a lot of you guys see where this is going. That video really reminds me of this photo right here. Basically just self-sabotaging. That's exactly what ended up happening in this video. This guy was standing there, he reached down to grab a brick and move it, and then the floor that he was trying to destroy ended up collapsing. And shockingly, while this seems like something that would be common sense, this is actually something that happens pretty frequently. If you go online, you can find a bunch of these videos. I don't really understand the logic behind why people are doing this, but really this is what happens when you don't properly educate your workers on how to stay safe.
This could happen to you as well.
No, buddy. You're not going to trick me or any of the people that watch this. This was not recorded in a public restroom. The clip that you guys just watched is very confusing. We can see a tile floor right here, this creature moving along the floor. It almost looks like a spider for a second, but then we realize this is actually a small octopus. Now, despite the fact the video I got tagged in claimed this was recorded in a public bathroom, that's not true. I found the original source for this video. It was recorded in Malaysia. Specifically, it was recorded in Johor, Malaysia, which back in 2023 received an excessive amount of rainfall, therefore there was a bunch of flooding, and it's actually relatively common for marine life when it floods to make their way into people's homes. It basically is just bringing their environment to you. Also, according to the lady who recorded this video, the octopus was very fast and hard to catch, but eventually she was able to get rid of it. I think we could debate all day as to which one of these things costs the most, but at the end of the day, that choice is going to be yours. This TikTok slideshow that I got tagged in went extremely viral starts off by showing images of super yachts stating I'm the most expensive thing, an image of a crown saying no I am, and then just a lock of hair kept inside of a small glass vial. Now first off, super yachts cost on average between 10 to 100 million. This crown right here is from 1911. This costs around $6 million. But this lock of hair, to many people, is considered priceless because it's supposedly a piece of hair from the Prophet Muhammad. Muhammad was born in 570 AD, which is only around 1500 years ago, so it would actually be possible to preserve a piece of hair this long. Because of the religious value though, again, this is going to be completely priceless to a lot of people compared to a crown or a super yacht.
This woman must have a death wish.
Guys, I cannot stress this enough. Never, ever do this. When I first saw this clip, I was absolutely shocked because what these girls are doing is a horrible idea. We of course see this warthog right here. This woman allows the warthog to go between her legs, the warthog pushes outwards, and I cut the video off before the red liquid starts coming out of her legs, but you can tell by her facial expression, she is in utter shock. For those wondering what a warthog looks like in high definition, this is what they look like. You'll notice they have some pretty gnarly tusks on the side of their face. Now, when looking at a warthog like this, you might think that these upper tusks are really the ones to be concerned about, but in reality, it's these lower ones because they are much sharper and they can do a ton of damage. And for the most part, warthogs are not very aggressive towards humans and they don't mind us, but when you allow it to go between your legs and you corner it, it's going to inadvertently do this. This was quite obvious. I can't be the only one getting slightly tired of seeing this trend, but I'm gonna cover this one too. This is another Impacto music video where we see this professional wrestler on screen by the name of Eddie Guerrero, and this clip shows something that appears to be glaringly obvious, the fact that Eddie is suffering from a heart attack during this match. However, things are not necessarily as they seem here because Eddie was a professional wrestler in the WWE, and for those that don't know, the WWE is extremely fake and scripted. This particular match took place back in 2004, and reportedly, at least according to my sources, the reason that Eddie faked this heart attack and went to the hospital was because he had to sort through some personal issues and needed some time away from the ring. However, that scripted heart attack would definitely be foreshadowing for what would happen almost a year later in 2005 when Eddie would actually pass away from heart failure.
Fucking explain to me how a fucking waterfall works. Where does this fucking water come from?
Don't worry, bro. I've got you. I'm going to explain exactly how this works. This video shows a guy hanging out next to a waterfall asking how it works. Specifically though, he's asking where the water is coming from, how does it get up onto the mountain and come down, is there a never-ending source? Well, I could sit here and just tell you that it's the water cycle and to do your own research, but I'm gonna do you one better. Well, it's very easy to explain. First, water evaporates, turns into clouds, then it rains on the mountains and the water continues flowing. Going a step further, water is in the air everywhere around you in the form of a gas or water vapor. Even where you're sitting right now, there is water in the room that you're breathing in. What happens from here is air then flows up a mountain known as orographic lift, and because it's much colder up there, the water in the air actually ends up condensing, turning into clouds, and eventually it will rain. On top of this, in the springtime, right around now, water levels are going to be much higher due to snow melt-off.
He found this crash on Google Earth.
That guy took forever to zoom in, so sorry about skipping around a little bit there, guys, but don't worry, I'm going to give you guys some context. This video that I got tagged in shows another Google Earth Explorer zooming in on a remote location in Russia. You don't quite see it at first, but once you look closely at the end result, we can see that there clearly appears to be a plane, and it looks as though this is a plane crash based on the fact all of these trees are flattened. So this right here is an actual photo of that plane crash site in Russia. We have a plane known as an AH-30, and at the time this was acting as a cargo plane. There were 7 total people on board this plane when it crashed on June 22nd of 2022 because of fuel exhaustion, and shockingly, all of them survived. At this point, I'm not too sure whether or not the wreckage of this plane has been removed, but I did just go check on Google Earth, and it's still there. I just don't know if it's been updated since the crash. You know what? This is going to be one of those rare times where I'm going to tell you guys, yes, you can actually look this up. This is a video that's been floating around on the internet for a reasonable amount of time, and there's actually a pretty disturbing story behind it. This video shows a chef working in the kitchen, he's frying stuff in boiling oil, all of a sudden he starts acting weird, and at the end of the video, I did cut it off, this guy ends up shoving his face into the oil. And the supposed story behind this is that this is 100% real and the chef was possessed, but I'm here to tell you guys that's not the case. This clip is 100% fake, and it's actually from a Japanese production by the name of I Am a Hero. Specifically, if you guys want to find this yourselves, you can look up I Am a Hero: The Day It Began, Episode 2. It shows a bunch of different locations. It's a zombie apocalypse, pretty much. It's quite clear based on the progression of these photos what happened, but I'm still going to break this down for you guys. This is a TikTok slideshow that went super viral that a bunch of you guys tagged me in. The first image shows this woman lying on a curved surface. Then the second image shows that curved surface without the woman there, and the third photo shows where her hands were. Now this slideshow is referencing a very popular short horror film by the name of Curve, and it's very simple to understand how this one works. You guys can find this, and if you want to watch this before I spoil it, you can do so, but in this video, this woman wakes up on this curved surface. She tries everything that she can to get away from this edge. She eventually does succeed in getting her back up against this wall. But shortly after getting this little win here and buying herself some more time to figure out how to get out, it starts raining, and at this point her fate is sealed, and the ending shows her no longer there.
If this bites you, you'll become Spider-Man.
Really sorry to disappoint you guys, but unfortunately this is not real, completely fake. This is a video that I got tagged in on TikTok. This actually went viral a couple of years ago, but it looks like it's catching a second wind. In it, we can see a surprisingly realistic spider, and if you guys look closely, the abdomen kind of resembles the face of Spider-Man. Now this fictitious spider actually does have its own official name as well, which makes it seem more realistic, Arachneanthropos principialis, but it was actually created by an artist by the name of Richard Wilkinson. This was then adopted by talented editors, and they created it in its own video form. With that being said though, there are spiders that do have faces on their abdomen, like these guys who live in Hawaii, oftentimes referred to as smiley face spiders. So depending on where you live, it's not unrealistic to think that you might end up seeing one of these at some point.
This man is already dead. He just doesn't know it yet.
As you guys heard, there were absolutely no sound effects, so you know the exact outcome of this video. This video recently went viral on TikTok and pretty much every other platform. In it, we can see these individuals driving on the road like normal, and all of a sudden, a large hole opens up in the middle of the road. This vehicle just barely makes it out, but the motorcyclist that was here vanishes inside. Now for some context, this was very recently recorded in Seoul, South Korea, and the motorcyclist here was missing for quite some time. He was eventually found at the bottom of this sinkhole, but unfortunately when he was found, he was no longer alive. This sinkhole right here was also very large, approximately 65 feet wide and 65 feet deep, so imagine the motorcyclist driving and falling 65 feet out of nowhere. Not a good chance of survival. And by the way, not to freak you guys out, sinkholes can happen pretty much anywhere, so always look for uneven, unsturdy ground.
Whatever you do, don't let it on your face.
This might look like a harmless enough video, but honestly, this would be absolutely terrifying. The video that you guys just watched shows a guy snorkeling and capturing an octopus that clearly is trying to get away. The octopus, even though it's been caught, does not go down without a fight though, because it then attaches itself to the snorkeler's face. And it's not like you can just pry an octopus's tentacles right off of your face. It's a lot more difficult than it sounds because they have extremely strong suction cups. Some larger species of octopuses, for example, are able to hold up to 35 pounds per suction cup, meaning if all of their suction cups were attached, it would be around 49,000 pounds. So even when you scale it down to a smaller octopus, it really is still going to be very difficult to get it off your face. And that's also not to mention, octopuses have very sharp beaks. And while they don't like to bite people often, they definitely will if they're attached to your face and you're bothering them.
People think this creator is in trouble.
Money!
This is definitely not my usual video topic here, guys, but because I kept getting tagged in it, I am going to cover it. There's not a whole lot of context behind this video, but we have the caption here. I'm starting to think this isn't a joke. Then we can see this girl smiling and a laser dot on her forehead. And it's pretty obvious, a lot of people are concerned for this content creator's well-being, thinking that she's being held against her will, and they're forcing her to play games. So the creator in question here is Pork Chop Son, and as you guys can see, she has quite a few followers, 572,000. And she does have several of these videos with the lasers, and every time she uploads one of these videos, they go super viral. This one has 500,000 likes. So clearly the entire goal here, as it always is with social media, is to get as much engagement as possible, people talking about your video, and to go as viral as possible. And this seemingly works. So my honest opinion is she's probably okay and just doing it for the views and followers.
What on earth is that? This right here is real footage that I captured literally 10 minutes ago.
Yes, guys, this is 100% real, but no, guys, the alien invasion has not started happening. Over the past couple of days, a ton of these videos have gone viral from the UK, and in these videos, we can see this strange white spiral in the night sky. I've seen a lot of pretty wild theories, but honestly, it was very easy to find the cause for this. So I'm sure you guys are all familiar with SpaceX, and specifically Elon Musk. A lot of his rocket launches tend to look pretty strange. And this really doesn't have anything to do with special technology. Really, it all has to do with the time of day that these are launched, twilight. This event is known as the twilight phenomenon, and basically what happens is you're watching it and it seems like it's nighttime, but the rocket launches and eventually goes back into the sunlight. This exhaust then ends up freezing in the atmosphere and creating these pretty crazy shapes that really stand out, and they're very bright. And I would bet my last dollar that that's exactly what's happening here. For some people, this might be nostalgic, but I know for a lot of you guys watching this, you're probably too young to know what this is. So clearly, this video is meant to be nostalgic. It shows New Year's Eve 1999 on a computer, and it switches over to the year 2000. And you might think, no big deal, why do people care about this? But a lot of people thought the world was going to end. Specifically, humans were becoming more and more reliant on technology around this time, and a lot of people thought as soon as the year 2000 came, we would experience something known as Y2K. Specifically, people thought that the computer's software back then was going to bug out as soon as the year 2000 hit because it wasn't built or programmed for that, and therefore things like power grids would shut down and a bunch of other critical infrastructure. And there were a lot of people who legitimately believed this and started prepping for doomsday, buying up as many survival things as they thought they needed, and then literally nothing happened.
If they don't do this fast, he could die.
There's a very good reason that they're quickly undressing this guy, because if they don't, he could potentially die. This is a video that's gone super viral on TikTok. In it, we can see a diver that's just been pulled out of the water, but instead of resting, the people around him are undressing him extremely quickly and bringing him off to something known as a decompression chamber. So for those who aren't aware, when you scuba dive, there are some risks involved, especially when you go extremely deep, stay down there for a long period of time, and try to resurface. When you resurface too quickly, you can experience something known as decompression sickness, where gases in your body start expanding, and this can cause a whole host of problems. Because of this, divers need to make sure they have pauses on their way back up, but in this case, because of the rate at which this diver resurfaced, they're going to have to bring him to a decompression chamber that will simulate the exact same amount of time that you'd spend stopping underwater.
I'm telling you, that is not diesel.
That's the fuel tank.
probably don't need to tell you guys this, but don't try this at home. Don't put motor oil in your mouth, especially used motor oil. This TikTok that I got tagged in went extremely viral. It shows these individuals stating that is not diesel. Then this guy puts his mouth under the stream here, swishes it around a little bit, spits it out, and says there's definitely oil in there. So first off, motor oil is actually not as harmful as you might think, as long as it gets down into your stomach. However, if you aspirate motor oil, that means breathe it in and get it into your lungs, this can cause a very specific type of pneumonia, which will cause a lot of damage, could potentially kill you. Twishing it around in your mouth like this, you're probably not going to run into too many issues. However, it's certainly not something you'd want to do, especially considering used motor oil does have carcinogens in it, meaning it can cause cancer. Also, I don't believe there is diesel in here, but if there is, that's even worse. We are super lucky that these guys cannot impact humans, otherwise we'd be cooked. This is absolutely terrifying. This is a TikTok video that I got tagged in. In it, we can see a very strange looking organism known as a bacteriophage. And what it's doing here is killing a single-celled organism in one of the most terrifying ways possible. So for those that don't know, bacteriophages are viruses, and these guys specifically target single-celled organisms. Basically, they consume them. What they'll do is land on the surface of a much larger single-celled organism and inject its DNA inside of it. The virus then completely hijacks the cell's normal systems. It will replicate a bunch of times, and eventually the cell will explode because there are so many bacteriophages inside. From here, the bacteriophages will spread out, injecting their genetic material into other single-celled organisms, and round we go. Actually, I don't think that Venice can talk, so how is Venice saying yes? I'm just kidding, guys. However, this slideshow clearly is not kidding when it says, wait, was this meme right the whole time? Then it shows an image of the pyramids with a giant monolith below it, and then an image of Venice, who is apparently saying yes. So if you guys aren't aware, recently there's been a very large fuss on social media where apparently these large structures were found underneath the pyramids. And a lot of people are taking this at face value. However, this is an independent study, not peer-reviewed, so more than likely it's not true. But apparently people are using Venice as a way to prove that this could be feasible. For those that don't know, Venice is known as the floating city because it's not actually built on solid ground. So I'm not sure if you're insinuating that the pyramids were meant to be built like Venice, but I really find that highly unlikely, and we still don't know if this is even true up here.
Remember, this is not just a story. This is...
Is it, guys? Is this really our future here? This is a simple little 2-image slideshow that I got tagged in, starting off by saying, remember, this is not just a story, then showing images from The Walking Dead, then a much more ominous message in the second slide saying, this is our future, and showing a zombie apocalypse. Now, the idea of zombies has been around for quite some time, but feasibly, how realistic is it? Well, as it turns out, not really at all. Honestly, the closest thing that we have to a zombie virus is probably the rabies virus. The rabies virus, much like the zombie virus, can actually cause frenzy and make an infected individual go out and bite other victims, which will then infect them as well. However, the one big difference about the zombie virus and the rabies virus is the fact that the rabies virus victims will end up dying. There's no undead period. You're dead after you show symptoms, pretty much.
This monster is actually 100% real.
When I first watched this, I thought that this was AI generated or perhaps from some video game, but no, this is actually real. The TikTok video that you guys just watched shows this individual at nighttime recording an abandoned bucket wheel excavator. And it's very creepy to look at. If you have megalophobia, this probably freaked you out just because of its sheer size. Now, the bucket wheel excavator that I believe we're looking at here in the original video is known as Bagger 1473. It's been abandoned for quite some time. Namely, you guys are able to see this tree growing right here, and the same tree is visible in this image, so I do believe they're one and the same. And this is a very large bucket wheel excavator. To give you guys some perspective, this is a person standing underneath it. And what's even crazier is that this bucket wheel excavator isn't even close to being the largest one. The largest is this one, Bagger 293, and as you guys can see, it blows the other one out of the water. Perhaps you find this meme funny, and that's all fine and dandy. However, just so you guys know, hail actually can be deadly. The clip that you guys just watched shows 2 instances of extreme hailstorms dropping very large chunks of ice. And from the videos, it's pretty clear that this is a very powerful storm, but really, a lot of people don't realize how powerful they can be. Most of the time when we encounter hail, they're going to be very small pellets, less than a centimeter in size. On occasion though, hail can grow to be quite large, up to 8 inches in diameter, and this is when it becomes deadly. Here you guys can see the associated speeds with the size of a hail pellet, less than an inch in diameter, going to be going pretty slow, 9 to 25 miles per hour. However, 4 inches plus, over 100 miles per hour. And if hail is able to do this to a metal car and its windshield, imagine the amount of damage this would do if it hit you in the head or any other part of your body for that matter.
Would you do this job for $1 million?
Even for $1 million a year, I certainly would not be doing this job because it's so exceptionally dangerous. This is a video that I scrolled across on Reddit. In it, we can see this guy working with 2 rail cars, and what he does here is he stands between them as they come together, and he links them together. The job that you guys are witnessing here is known as a train coupler or a railway coupler. These guys get paid around $15 to $24 an hour, and it's something that has been phased out for the most part. However, because some parts of the world do still use these old train cars, the job is sometimes still needed, and it's very dangerous because there's a risk of being crushed. Mortality rate here is much higher than other jobs because occasionally these trains will continue moving, potentially the train coupler will misstep, and then he'll get pulled under onto the tracks. Fortunately nowadays, in most cases, we do have automatic couplers. These kind of fit together like hands, so that does make it a lot safer.
The government offered me $6 million to keep quiet because I discovered infinite energy.
Sorry to be the fun police here, guys, but this right here, quite literally not possible. This video that I got tagged in shows this person playing around with something known as a perpetual motion machine. In it, we can see these ball bearings on this platform. They slide down this little track, and then they end up popping back up on top. And while this might seem kind of feasible, it's not. The idea of a perpetual motion machine has been around for quite some time, and basically all it is the thought that you can create a machine that doesn't require any energy to make it move. Basically, it powers itself infinitely. And if this were actually possible, it would be worth an insane amount of money. However, every single perpetual motion machine that's ever been built is not real. This machine, for example, actually uses magnets that are attached to the bottom end to give this ball bearing more velocity to shoot it back up to the top. And right here is what that magnet looks like.
And I noticed a giant crab, which I thought was a crab. It's a spider, and it has all of its...
If you hate spiders, I think this guy's reaction is completely warranted, and yes, this is actually a spider, it's not a crab. This TikTok video that I got tagged in shows this guy performing some work, walking through this water when he noticed a spider on top of the water that dove underneath. He then gets closer, and we can see this spider is quite large, and it also has an egg sac below it. Now, most of the time when people think about aquatic spiders, they're going to think about the diving bell spider, and while this one is the most popular aquatic spider, these guys are also aquatic spiders known as fisher spiders, and usually they hang out on top of the water using surface tension, then they go down and capture their prey. The reason I think this is the spider seen in the original video, though, is because they are known to carry around their egg sacs and protect it with their lives. They also do have little hairs that trap air, allowing them to be underwater for an extended period of time, so this does make a lot of sense, especially when you see it holding the egg sac. This is a relatively old case, but trust me, people have not forgotten about it. This TikTok slideshow first starts off by showing an image of a young girl by the name of Kaylee, then an image of Kaylee with her mother, Casey, a missing child's poster of Kaylee's face on it, and finally the location where Kaylee's remains were found. After not seeing Kaylee for 31 days, Kaylee's grandmother ended up reporting her missing. Shockingly though, Casey did not. Obviously, Casey Anthony was then asked what had happened to Kaylee, and she gave several accounts that varied that were all inaccurate. Eventually, Kaylee's remains were found, and long story short, Casey was tried for first-degree murder. However, despite a lot of evidence and unanswered questions, Casey was not found guilty for first-degree murder or really anything related to her daughter. She was only found guilty on 4 counts of providing false information to the authorities. I looked forever to try to find an explanation for this video, but unfortunately couldn't find anything. This video has been floating around on the internet for quite some time. In it, we can see a type of monkey known as a macaque just minding its own business. But as soon as this monkey jumps up onto the walkway, we can see something is seriously wrong. It's missing one arm right here, and this arm is in the process of falling off. Now, in doing my research online, I only found one other recorded incident of a macaw that was missing both of its front limbs, and to my knowledge, I don't think they actually captured it to provide it medical assistance, so we don't really know what happened to it. That being said, there are two plausible theories I can think of. Number one, this monkey grabbed an extremely high voltage power line and ended up losing both of its arms. Or number two, it challenged an alpha monkey from its pack and lost both of its arms as a punishment. This has been recorded in the past. I don't know how many times I'm going to have to say this, but standing directly behind these mooring lines is a death wish. This is a topic that I don't have to do research on anymore because I've covered it so many times. In this video, we can see this person recording some mooring lines attached to a ship, and they're crackling, shifting around, making a bunch of noises, and these right here are actually pretty dangerous. Mooring lines are obviously important. They help ships stay in place when they're coming into harbor, but occasionally mooring lines, when they get worn out, will end up snapping, and this area right here is known as the snapback zone. Basically, if you're in this zone and a line snaps, you're probably gonna die. To illustrate it, this is what mooring line snapback looks like. The rope travels at approximately 500 miles per hour, completely eviscerating people. This right here is a dummy, by the way. So while it is relatively rare for one of these lines to snap, it's still not something you want to stand behind freely. As it turns out, there's really not a whole lot of information about this online, but I'm going to do my best to cover it. So this slideshow that I got tagged in has two images. The first one shows a man holding a door above his head, and the second image shows a very large door, insinuating that these are both the same doors. However, I don't believe they are. So the guy seen in the first image is Ali ibn Abu Talib, sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, and the artist depiction shows him in the Battle of Khaybar. This battle took place between early Muslim and Jewish communities, and in the battle, it's said that he ripped the gates of Khaybar off their hinges, held the gates up, allowing soldiers to cross over, and they basically credit him with winning. With that being said, these large gates right here are actually the gates of Balawat, which, to my knowledge, are not related to the gates of Khaybar.
Would you jump in for $1 million?
Asking if I would risk certain death for $1 million. The answer to that is going to be hell no. This TikTok video that I got tagged in shows a beautiful location next to the ocean, but while this looks tempting to jump into, as you guys can see from the video, if you were to do so, you would more than likely not survive. So what we're looking at here is actually a relatively popular tourist destination by the name of Tancone Cave, located in Tenerife. This cave is volcanic based, obviously has a direct connection to the ocean and the currents, and under calm seas, it actually looks pretty inviting to swim in. Despite the fact that it looks so inviting though, the seas here turn very quickly, and in the past, unfortunately, people have jumped in, the cave has filled up, they've hit their heads on the roof, passed out, and drowned. Not to mention, even if you were swimming in the center of this open area right here and trying to get up and out, the water is very aerated, meaning it would be very hard to swim.
Whatever you do, don't stick your hand in.
This video went viral on TikTok. There's absolutely no context behind it, so you know what, guys? We're gonna talk about it. So here we have this guy recording an animal burrow, and on the inside we can clearly see that there's some sort of reptile. And all we can really see here is just a slight view of its eyes, but fortunately this creator posted multiple videos of this, and in one of the videos we could actually see its tail, which is all we need to know what type of lizard this is. If you guys look at this lizard right here, and specifically its tail, you'll notice that it looks eerily similar to the one in the previous photo I just showed you. And these guys are specifically known as spiny-tailed lizards or Euromastics. These guys are native in Africa as well as the Middle East, and typically they're going to be found in burrows, which definitely coincides with the original video we watched. Occasionally, people will keep them as pets as well, but this is not really recommended because it's kind of hard to care for them.
A new emotion! Wow!
Full disclosure, without any context, it's kind of impossible to understand what's going on here, but I do have theories. This is another urban exploration video that I got tagged in, shows this person exploring a abandoned location, and the final clip here shows them running into what looks to be a cow, and a lot of people were freaked out by this. In fact, some people in the comments thought that the cow literally died standing up because the video is framed in a creepy way. But I can tell you guys right now, this cow is clearly alive. This leaves us with two options. Number one, potentially the farmer here ended up abandoning his livestock. This wouldn't be the first time that this happened, and this wouldn't be too unbelievable because cows are able to survive by themselves for quite some time. Or option number two, which I think is more likely, this is actually a location where this guy still is raising cattle, and the person filming this is trespassing. I mean, you can literally see hay right here. Without context, this might be concerning to watch, but there is actually a reason why this is happening. This TikTok video that I got tagged in got over 500,000 likes. It shows this newborn baby being completely silent, and what I believe to be a hospital worker patting on this baby's midsection. Now, it's pretty common knowledge. When a baby is first born, it's going to start crying. This is completely normal. But occasionally newborns will come out and they don't start crying. And while you might think this is also normal, it's actually not, and it's quite concerning. The reason that crying is a good thing is because it lets medical personnel know, as well as the parents, that the baby is actually able to utilize its lungs, take in oxygen, and survive. A lack of crying signifies there could be some problems with breathing, there might be something obstructing the airway, fluid, who knows, but in general, it's not a good sign. Here we are yet again, talking about another fascination that personally I will never understand, but it is deemed normal. This TikTok that I got tagged in shows this person recording a freezer full of something known as freezer frost, then grabbing handfuls of it and consuming it, obviously with the intentions of making ASMR content. Freezer frost is something that we've all experienced at one point or another. It is completely normal for this to happen in your freezer, and a lot of times people will call it freezer burn. Lately though, there's been a large push with people consuming freezer frost, which in certain scenarios is not something that you should do. If you have a freezer with food in it, and if it contains things like raw chicken, you definitely do not want to eat the freezer frost because it could contain bacteria that could make you very sick. The only time it's safe to consume freezer frost is when the freezer is completely cleaned and it is as sanitary as possible, which is definitely something these individuals.
I'm gonna tape it and then I'll unzip it when I want you to talk.
For some reason, this clip just started resurfacing on social media, but it is actually relatively old. The clip that you guys just watched doesn't have a whole lot of context. We can tell that this guy's in a courtroom. We can hear the judge yelling at this guy, and then the video cuts to a shot of authorities applying red tape and basically gagging this defendant. So this incident actually happened back in 2018 in Ohio, of all places, and this right here is the defendant, Franklin Williams. In court, the judge, John Russo, and Franklin were butting heads because Franklin wanted to talk out of turn, according to Russo, and therefore Russo told him to pipe down. Russo warned Franklin many times that he would end up gagging him if he didn't stop talking, and he did eventually end up following through on that, as you guys can see. Of course, a lot of people were very upset about this because this does not look good, let's be honest, and Russo did end up apologizing not too long after this happened.
This parasite is actually really smart.
This is a topic that I've covered several times, but one of the Patreon members requested this again, so I'm always down to revisit this absolute nightmare. In the clip that you guys just watched, we can see a small snail right here, and you'll notice something very strange going on with its eyes. It looks like there's a small worm on the inside gyrating and moving back and forth, and that's because that's exactly what's happening here. This is the parasite right here, the green-banded brood sac, and it infects both snails and birds. The life cycle here is an absolute nightmare. The parasite will go into the snail's eyes and make it look as those eyes are worms, and in turn the birds will be attracted to it, swoop down and rip out the snail's eye as well as the worm, and then the cycle continues. And you guys want to know the most terrifying part about this? It infects humans. Nah, just kidding. But the snails, when they have this, will have this for the rest of their lives, so their eyes will get torn.
This is actually really useful to humans.
What is this alcohol?
I know I can't be the only one who is made uncomfortable by this video, but you know what? We're going to cover it. This is a video that was covered by my good friend Purely Chase. In it, we can see this spider, a strand of silk, and it's attached to a rotating drill head. The drill is then turned on, and we can see a bunch of silk being pulled out of the spider. And believe it or not, this is actually something humans have been doing for quite some time, that is harvesting spider silk. spider silk is a very strong and resilient material, and it's been used for things in the past like clothing and textiles, but also spider silk has some promise for use in the medical field for things like sutures, aka stitches, or wound dressings because it's so biologically compatible. That being said, this method of harvesting spider silk right here does look to be a little aggressive and could potentially harm the spider. Safest way I've seen is for the spider to be knocked out with carbon dioxide and then for the silk to be collected on a spool slowly. Super dangerous, guys, and what you don't see in this video is another guy off to the right who actually made contact with the wood. This is a video that was sent to me through Instagram DM. In it, we can see this large saw cutting through a large piece of wood. And at first, things seem just fine, but partway through, this piece of wood that's been cut off falls into the saw and then gets thrown with an extreme amount of force that direction. And what we just witnessed is something that's extremely dangerous, especially the larger the wood is, known as saw kickback. To put this simply, what happens here is on a saw, we of course have teeth that are spinning, and when you're cutting a piece of wood, if you accidentally rotate it, those teeth can get caught onto the board, and instead of cutting the board, will send it flying backwards with a lot of force. This means that if you're standing directly behind it or you don't have proper safety protection, that piece of wood is going to make contact with you, and it could be very, very bad.
So wasted your precious time.
What you guys just watched is fascinating because this shows just how quickly anesthesia takes effect. This is a video that I scrolled across on Reddit. In it, we can see this woman preparing to go into surgery, being administered anesthesia, and singing. She seems like she has a lot of energy, she raises up her hand, and then promptly passes out. So the type of anesthesia that was used here, I believe, was propofol due to its white color, oftentimes referred to as the milk of amnesia. Usually this is intravenously injected, which means into your veins, and it is very effective at knocking you out within 45 seconds to a minute. And for 99% of people, no matter how hard you try to fight passing out from it, you are not going to be successful, as you guys saw from this video. There are some cases where anesthesia won't be as effective for certain people, but usually this is more something to do with the dosing, as well as some other external factors.
They caught this from the ocean depths.
Looking at this, it's pretty darn easy to believe that this is some alien's head floating around in the ocean, but no guys, this is actually a fish. This video was sent to me by one of my good content creator friends, Dr. Nos, and it's pretty self-explanatory. We see this strange creature that's been pulled up from the ocean's depths, and it's something that I've never seen until today. These guys are shockingly 100% real though. They're oftentimes referred to as the smooth lump sucker or the smooth lump fish. But when they're underwater in their normal environment, which is usually around 1,500 feet deep, this is what they look like. And you'll notice that this and this look quite different, and I believe that's because this was caught by a fisherman and the decompression caused this fish to kind of blow up a little bit and inflate. And these guys are primarily going to be consuming things like jellyfish, though they have been observed to consume things like crustaceans as well.
This is not something to be worried about.
Come on guys, there's no need to worry about this kind of stuff. This is completely normal, trust me. This is a relatively old video that I got tagged in, recorded back in 2023, and in it we can see this individual recording the sun, but what's strange is around the sun there appears to be a rainbow, and we have this ominous caption down here as well. The good news though is that again, this is completely normal. It's oftentimes referred to as a sunbow or a sun halo. Put simply, this is the result of cirrus clouds, which rest very high in the atmosphere where it's very cold, and the sunlight will end up refracting off of the crystals. This will break up the light into different colors, and then it will create that rainbow-like effect. This can be seen in a variety of different ways, like sun pillars as well, and under the right circumstances, this can even be seen at nighttime with the moon. This is essentially just a giant circular rainbow made out of ice crystals.
This fish is not feeling too great.
Money!
I know a lot of people probably don't care, but this fish is definitely in a lot of pain. This TikTok video that I got tagged in shows a couple of guys fishing out in the ocean, and they pull up this catch that looks normal at first, but then when you look closer, you'll notice that the eyes are bulging, and we have this large mass coming out of the fish's mouth. What these fish are experiencing is known as rapid decompression. Basically, these fish live so deep that when they come up, gas expands on the inside and it causes them to inflate. For example, this is the difference between a blobfish in its normal environment versus when it's pulled up. A lot of you guys might also be wondering, what's the deal with this giant tongue coming out of the fish's mouth? But that's not actually the tongue. This is known as stomach eversion. Fish have something known as a swim bladder. When they're pulled up too quickly, this expands, and then their stomach gets pushed out through their mouth.
This means it's time to clean your fireplace.
Money!
Full disclosure, I'm not 100% what we're looking at here, but I am pretty positive that it's soot. In the clip that you guys just watched, this individual ends up opening up a fireplace, and on the inside of the door is a mesmerizing burning pattern that again I believe is soot, and if that's the case, this is not necessarily a good thing. For those of you that have fireplaces or candles in your house, more than likely you're familiar with soot. It is the black residue left over after something has been burnt. The thing is though, soot is not a good thing because it's basically unused fuel and it's very flammable. So what this means is if you don't properly clean up your fireplace, soot will build up in the chimney as well as other places, and it could potentially cause a house fire. Another compound that could end up building up is creosote, and this combined with soot is even worse because both of them are highly flammable as well. So if you see soot build up on your door, probably a good time to clean it out.
This accident was absolutely brutal.
I'm sorry guys, I know this video is extremely graphic and disturbing, and I've probably ruined your day. Just kidding, obviously. This is a pretty ridiculous video that was taken back in 2019. In it, we can see this guy filling up a cup with ice. He then proceeds to toss the ice onto the ground, and after checking to make sure nobody's around, he pretends to fall and proceeds to lay on the ground until he's discovered by somebody else. The video was just recently posted to TikTok, even though it is 6 years old. The guy here is Alexander Goldinsky, and what he was attempting to do was insurance fraud. For those that don't know what insurance fraud is, it's when you pretend to get injured or pretend to sustain some damage, then you take out a claim and you basically get a handout. Obviously, this is very illegal, but Alexander was only charged with third-degree insurance fraud and basically got a slap on the wrist. 2 years probation, 14 hours community service, and paid $600 to the insurance company.
Always lock your doors in the woods.
This video is pretty terrifying, and this is exactly why you always lock your doors, even if you live in the woods. A bunch of you guys tagged me in this video on TikTok, where this mother can be seen with her baby, smiling, recording herself, and the door then opens behind her. She doesn't appear to be too concerned. Perhaps she thinks this is somebody from her family, but if we look real closely, we can see it's actually a bear. I couldn't find any information about that video online, so I am going to assume that her and her child are fine, but what a lot of people don't give bears credit for is the fact that they're very intelligent. And because of their intelligence and drive to get food, they're very food motivated, they've oftentimes been recorded opening up car doors, and there are videos online of bears who have made connections with humans, literally opening up their front door and closing it as they please. So in my opinion, it's really not too surprising to see a bear opening the door in this case, especially if you live out in the woods. It is probably searching for food. This new trend here is basically like the brand new Hey Apple, so I'm pretty surprised that things worked out here. This TikTok that I got tagged in shows two opposing teams on a soccer pitch. We have the same exact soundtrack, No me mires con esos ojos, and we can see number 4 here. At first, he's walking normally on the pitch, but then he ends up collapsing, and the opposing teammates call over somebody to help. And I know most people are used to soccer players flopping and pretending to be injured, but no, this was actually serious. This was the player in that video, Eduardo Bove, and on December 1st of 2024, he ended up suffering a cardiac arrest while on the pitch. This happened at the 16th minute of the match, and he was immediately rushed to the hospital where they performed surgery, and fortunately he did end up surviving. And this is actually very lucky because there are a lot of videos of soccer players collapsing, not getting up, and passing away.
They do this to the river every year.
Before this video gets posted all over social media with a bunch of misinformation, I'm going to tell you guys exactly what this is first. This video was sent to me through Instagram DM. In it, we can see these individuals spraying fluorescent green water into this river. And while this serves no functional purpose, this is actually happening for a reason. The video was recorded in Chicago, and every single year around St. Paddy's Day, which is happening on Monday, they dye the river green. This tradition first originated back in the 60s. Initially, they used green water tracing dye, which is something that plumbers use, but it appears that they now have switched to a plant-based vegetable dye. The exact concoction is not known, but in essence, it only takes 40 pounds of this powder to dye the entire river. And a lot of you guys might think this is bad for the environment, but according to Illinois' Environmental Protection Agency, it is environmentally safe and non-toxic.
Yes, they also set traps for snowmobilers.
From what I can tell, there's really not a whole lot of context behind this video, but the caption does explain what it's about. This video that was posted to TikTok shows this person snowmobiling in a field, and it has the caption, "When you're flying through an open field and you see a wire and suddenly I'm 5 opening gifts with both my parents." What they're referring to, of course, is the near-death and life-threatening experience of running into one of these, a wire booby trap. We've talked about this many times, but for those that don't know, wire booby traps are typically set up on people's private property, right at the right height for the neck level to deter people from riding their motorbikes there. But what a lot of people don't know is that these wire booby traps are oftentimes set up for snowmobilers as well. There have been several times where people have set these up on public trails as well, which of course is absolutely horrible.
If you see green flames, do not get close.
What is this alcohol?
What you guys are looking at here is 100% real. This is not some sort of color filter on these flames. They are green. This video has recently been going super viral on TikTok. It was recorded at Texas Tech University, and in it, we can see a manhole with these green flames shooting out at a pretty high speed. So apparently this past week at Texas Tech University, there was a large explosion inside one of these manholes, potentially several of these large explosions. And this wasn't just a small one-off thing. There were numerous fires on the campus that firefighters had to respond to. Power was shut off, and a large portion of the campus was closed down, with people being evacuated. And as of now, we really don't know what caused this. Potentially natural gas, potentially some sort of electrical malfunction, but again, we don't really know. The one thing we do possibly know though, the reason these flames are green is probably because of wire and other electrical components burning.
These creatures completely covered this rope.
At first, I wasn't really too sure what I was looking at here, but now I'm pretty sure I know. This video that I got tagged in shows this rope right here, and as you guys can see, there's a bunch of these weird small things moving on it. And because the camera's not very focused, it's kind of hard to tell what we're looking at here, but I believe we're looking at skeleton shrimp. Skeleton shrimp, while they look pretty creepy, are actually quite small, and just like their name suggests, they're small aquatic creatures, and these guys primarily hang out on things like rocks or seaweed. I will say though, we are very lucky that they are so small, because if they were human-sized, we'd be cooked. They're very, very aggressive, and they have venomous claws. As for these guys though that are hanging out on this rope, I highly doubt they're going to survive for too much longer because they are solely aquatic creatures. This rope was probably sitting underwater for quite some time and was just pulled up, so that's why they made it their temporary home. Even if this is a topic that you've never heard about before, I think we can all agree this is relatively creepy. This TikTok video shows a few different images of faces. At first, they look normal, but then they rapidly change into distorted faces. And the photos here are meant to show what a normal person sees versus somebody with demon face syndrome, otherwise known as prosopometamorphosia. Try saying that 10 times fast. This is an extremely rare syndrome. There have only been about 75 cases of this that have been recognized, but just as the name suggests, normal people see faces normally, but people with demon face syndrome tend to see the faces in a more distorted way. This also has varying degrees of severity. Usually they'll see drooping and different facial expressions, and the face can actually morph progressively, so kind of like looking at the surface of water, moving the entire time you're looking.